The stars looked different from this far out in space. Lieutenant Commander Jake Miller stared at the view screen of the U.S. Defiant. This was humanity's first venture so deep into uncharted territory. The crew felt both excited and nervous. "Sir, we're picking up unusual energy readings," said Communications Officer Patty Nelson. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. 2 different signal patterns. Neither matches anything in our database. Miller nodded. "Proceed with caution. Reduce speed and raise shields as a precaution." The Defiant slowed as it approached what appeared to be a space battle. 2 alien fleets exchanged fire in the distance. One fleet had sleek, blue-white ships that moved with grace. The other had dark, angular vessels covered in sharp protrusions. "We need to back away slowly," Miller ordered. "We are not getting involved in someone else's fight." But it was too late. The Defiant had been spotted. 3 of the dark ships broke formation and moved toward the human vessel with alarming speed. "Hail them," Miller said. "All frequencies, universal greeting protocol." Patty tried, but received no response. Instead, the dark ships fired warning shots that flashed past the Defiant's bow. "Return to Earth coordinates, maximum speed," Miller ordered. Before they could turn around, a bright energy beam hit the Defiant's engines. The ship shuddered and alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Engine power at 40%, reported Engineer Frank West. "We can't outrun them." The situation looked grim until several of the blue-white ships positioned themselves between the Defiant and the attackers. A voice came through the communication system. It spoke in a strange language, but the ship's computer quickly began translating. "Unknown vessel. This is Galactic Coalition Defense Force. You have entered a war zone. Follow our escort to safety." Miller had no choice but to comply. The Defiant followed the blue ships away from the battle. Hours later, they docked at an enormous space station unlike anything humans had ever built. It stretched for miles in every direction, housing countless alien vessels. A delegation of tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms met the human crew at the airlock. Their leader stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Xerex of the Galactic Coalition. You have stumbled upon our conflict with the Kravax Empire. A most unfortunate timing for first contact." Miller introduced himself and explained their peaceful exploration mission. The ambassador led them to a large meeting room where representatives of various alien species waited. None of them looked particularly happy to see the humans. "The coalition has existed for over 6,000 years, Xerex explained. "We have united 43 spacefaring civilizations in peace and mutual protection. The Kravax Empire, however, believes in conquest and enslavement of what they call lesser species." A tall insect-like alien displayed a holographic map showing hundreds of star systems. Many glowed red. "These are the territories lost to the Kravax in recent years," said the alien in a clicking voice. "They are technologically superior in many ways. We are losing this war." Miller noticed how the aliens studied the humans with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. One military officer spoke quietly to another, but the translation system caught his words. "Such primitive creatures, soft and weak." Ambassador Xerex tried to be diplomatic. "Your species is young. Your technology is developing. But perhaps you can still be of use." Miller understood their meaning. The coalition saw humans as potential cannon fodder for their war. It was clear from their dismissive looks and condescending tones. "We need to contact Earth," Miller said firmly. "Our people need to know what's happening out here." Xerex nodded. "We will assist you in sending a message. But understand this, the Kravax now know of your existence. They will find your homeworld eventually. Your species has unknowingly joined this war, whether you wish it or not." Miller looked at his crew members. Their faces showed worry but also determination. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge, a galactic war they never asked to join, against an enemy who saw them as nothing but slaves to be conquered. 3 weeks after the Defiant's discovery, Captain Lisa Carter arrived at the Coalition space station with 5 Earth ships. The small diplomatic fleet represented humanity's first official contact with the coalition. Earth had received Miller's messages and sent their best military and diplomatic minds to assess the situation. Captain Carter stepped off her ship with her team. She wore her formal uniform and walked with confidence. The aliens towered over the humans, but Carter did not look intimidated. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for helping our exploratory vessel," she said to Ambassador Zyrex. "We come to understand this conflict and discuss possible cooperation." The Coalition War Council met in a large round chamber. Representatives from many alien species sat in rising tiers around a central holographic display. The humans were given seats at the lowest level, a clear sign of their perceived status. General Throlak, the Coalition military commander, began the briefing. He was tall with gray skin and had eyes that glowed yellow. His voice boomed through the chamber. "The Kravaks have superior weapons, faster ships, and stronger shields," he explained. "They have pushed us back in 12 major battles this year alone." The hologram showed coalition ships being destroyed by Kravaks weapons. The general looked at the humans with obvious doubt. "Your species' technology is primitive compared to ours, and we are already losing. I fail to see how you could help us." Eric Summers, Earth's chief military strategist, studied the battle simulations carefully. He was older than most of the human team, with gray hair and a thoughtful expression. He had spent years studying military history on Earth. "May I ask a question?" Summers said. When the general nodded, he continued, "I notice your ships always form the same formations and follow precise attack patterns. Is this standard procedure?" "Of course," replied Throlak. "We use battle formations perfected over thousands of years. Each movement is calculated for maximum efficiency." Summers nodded. "And how often do you change these patterns?" The alien council members looked confused. "Change them? Why would we change what is mathematically optimal?" Summers stood up and walked to the holographic display. "With your permission." When granted access, he manipulated the controls to replay the last battle. "Your tactics are predictable," he said simply. "The Kravaks know exactly what you will do before you do it. On Earth, we learned long ago that sometimes the mathematically perfect solution is not the best when your enemy expects it." The council chamber filled with murmurs. Some aliens seemed offended, others curious. Summers continued, "Humans have fought wars against technologically superior enemies many times in our history. We learned to adapt, to be unpredictable, to use terrain and psychology against our enemies." He changed the simulation to show a different battle approach, with ships breaking formation, using asteroids as cover, and attacking from unexpected angles. This is how humans would fight, not with superior technology, but with superior adaptability. General Throlak made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Chaotic, undisciplined. You would waste resources with such random movements." Captain Carter stepped forward. "Not random. Adaptive. Humans excel at changing plans when facing unexpected situations. Your own reports show the Kravaks win because they can predict your next move." The Coalition War Council debated among themselves in various languages. Some dismissed the human ideas immediately. Others seemed intrigued. Finally, Ambassador Zyrex spoke. "We are losing this war with our current methods. Perhaps there is wisdom in trying something new, even if it comes from a young species." General Throlak did not look convinced, but he nodded reluctantly. "Very well. We will permit a small human contingent to join our next defensive operation at Proxima Thule. It is a minor mining colony under threat of attack. If your methods prove effective, we will consider further cooperation." Captain Carter looked at her team. This was their chance to prove humanity's worth to the Coalition, not through advanced technology, but through the uniquely human ability to adapt and overcome. The stakes couldn't be higher. If they failed, Earth might be left to face the Kravaks alone. The mining colony on Proxima Thule was built into the side of a mountain range. Its valuable mineral deposits made it an important target for the Kravaks. Major Samwright led a team of 20 human special operations soldiers to help defend it. They arrived 3 days before the expected attack. Coalition Commander Vexnar greeted the humans with obvious skepticism. He was a reptilian alien with scaled skin and stood nearly 7 feet tall. "You will defend the eastern approach," he told Wright. "My troops will handle the main defenses according to standard protocols." Wright surveyed the terrain with a frown. "The eastern approach has almost no natural barriers. It's the most vulnerable area." "Precisely," said Vexnar. "We are testing your abilities. You claimed humans could fight effectively against superior forces. Now prove it." The humans were given basic quarters and access to coalition weapons, which were more advanced than Earth technology. Wright gathered his team for planning. "They've set us up to fail," said Sergeant Amy Powell, checking her new plasma rifle. 20 of us against who knows how many Krivaks." Wright nodded. "So we changed the rules. We don't fight the way they expect anyone to fight." Over the next 2 days, the humans worked continuously. They dug trenches where coalition soldiers would have built shield walls. They created simple traps using mining explosives. They positioned themselves in scattered hiding spots, rather than in the formal defensive line that Vexnar had suggested. Coalition observers watched with confusion and sometimes amusement. They didn't understand why the humans were working so hard on what seemed like primitive fortifications when they had access to energy shields and automated defense turrets. On the 3rd day, the Kravaks arrived. Their ships darkened the sky before landing troops outside the colony perimeter. The Kravak soldiers were tall, with 4 arms and armor that seemed to absorb light. They carried weapons that fired pulses of dark energy. The battle began exactly as the coalition had predicted. The Kravaks disabled the main shield generators with a precise strike, then moved forward in tight formations. The coalition troops responded with their standard defense protocols, firing in coordinated patterns from behind backup shield generators. But on the eastern approach, things went differently. When the Kravaks forces advanced, they found no organized resistance. Instead, hidden mines exploded under their feet. Snipers fired from unexpected positions. The humans never stayed in one place long enough to become easy targets. A Kravaks commander led a charge toward what seemed like a weak point in the defenses. Wright had anticipated this and set a trap. When the Kravaks entered a narrow ravine, explosives collapsed the walls on them. "Move to position B," Wright shouted into his comm unit. His team immediately shifted positions, maintaining constant movement. On the main battlefield, the coalition forces were struggling. Their rigid formations were breaking under the Kravaks' assault. 3 of their defensive positions had already fallen. Eastern sector should have been overrun by now, a coalition officer reported to Commander Vexnar. But the humans are still holding. The Kravaks are committing more forces to that area. Vexnar watched the battle displays with growing surprise. The humans were pulling Kravaks' forces away from the main colony, thinning the enemy's numbers. Their chaotic, unpredictable movements were confusing the Kravaks commanders who were used to fighting the methodical coalition forces. By nightfall, the colony still stood. The Kravaks had retreated to regroup, having lost more soldiers than expected. The eastern approach, which should have fallen first, had held firm under human defense. Commander Vexnar found Wright treating a wound on his arm. "Your methods are unorthodox," the alien said, "but effective. You were outnumbered 5-1, yet you held your position while suffering minimal casualties." Wright shrugged. "Humans have been fighting outnumbered for most of our history. We've had to learn how to adapt." "Perhaps," said Vexnar slowly, "there is more for us to learn from humans than we first thought." Word of the successful defense spread quickly through coalition communication channels. Military analysts began carefully studying recordings of the human tactics. For the first time since the war began, the coalition had found something the Kravaks couldn't easily counter. Something unpredictable. Something human. After the success at Proxima VI, the coalition became very interested in humans. They brought 50 human soldiers to their main science facility on Rigel Prime. The aliens wanted to understand what made humans different from other species. Dr. Olivia Grant, a human xenobiologist, worked with coalition scientists. They ran tests on human volunteers, measuring how their bodies responded to stress, pain, and fear. The aliens were confused by what they found. Your heart rate increases under stress, yet your decision-making often improves, said Dr. Zex, a six-limbed alien scientist. Most species lose cognitive function when adrenaline rises, but humans seem built for crisis situations. Dr. Grant smiled. Humans evolved as both prey and predator. We were not the strongest or fastest on our planet, but we survived because we could adapt quickly. Our stress response prepares us to fight or run, but also sharpens our minds. The coalition began integrating small groups of human soldiers into their military units. They called them tactical advisors, though many coalition officers still view humans as primitive. The cultural differences created tension between the species. Sergeant Kyle Martinez was assigned to a coalition unit led by Commander Vrex. The commander was a tall, blue-skinned alien who strictly followed military protocols. "Your human emotions make you unpredictable," Vrex told Martinez during their first meeting. "We value logic and clear battle plans. Emotions lead to mistakes." Martinez shook his head. "Sometimes emotions save lives. A soldier who feels connected to his team will risk more to protect them. That bond makes us stronger, not weaker." Vrex did not understand this concept. In coalition culture, soldiers followed orders without question. The idea of personal sacrifice for others outside one's genetic family seemed illogical to them. During a training exercise, one of Vrex's soldiers became trapped under fallen debris. According to coalition protocol, retrieving him would risk too many resources. Vrex prepared to mark him as a casualty. Martinez ignored the protocol. He crawled under the unstable debris and dragged the injured alien to safety. The coalition soldiers watched in shock. No one had expected Martinez to risk his life for an alien he barely knew. "Why did you do that?" Vrex asked later. "The probability of success did not justify the risk to your life." Martinez looked Vrex in the eyes. "On Earth, we have a saying, no one gets left behind. It's not about probability. It's about brotherhood." "Brotherhood. But you are not the same species," Vrex said, confused. "Brotherhood isn't about biology," Martinez explained. "It's about standing together against a common enemy, knowing someone has your back no matter what. That trust makes a stronger fighting force than any technology." Over the following weeks, Martinez taught Vrex's unit human tactics. The aliens learned to use terrain to their advantage, to adapt when plans failed, and to make quick decisions without waiting for orders from above. Slowly, something changed in the coalition unit. They began to work together differently, more like humans did. During a surprise Kravax attack on a supply depot, Vrex was injured. Martinez pulled him to safety while the rest of the unit provided covering fire, something they would never have done before training with humans. As Vrex recovered in the medical bay, he called Martinez to his side. "I believe I understand your concept of brotherhood now," the alien said quietly. "When you pulled me to safety, I felt grateful, not just for my survival, but because you valued me as an individual." Back on Earth, the military leadership received reports of the growing cooperation between humans and coalition forces. They agreed to commit significant military resources to the war, but with one condition. Humans would be treated as full partners, not expendable assets. Ambassador Zyrex, speaking for the Coalition Council, formally accepted the terms. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Coalition recognized a new species as equals before they had proven themselves for centuries. The human element was changing more than just battle tactics. It was changing the coalition itself. 3 months after humans joined the war, the Kravax launched their biggest attack yet. They sent hundreds of warships toward the coalition's core worlds. The coalition leaders called an emergency meeting with their human allies. "They target our most populated systems," said General Throlak, pointing to a star map. "If these worlds fall, Billions will die, and our industrial capacity will drop by 60%. Admiral Diana Ross had just arrived from Earth with humanity's first battle fleet. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She studied the map carefully. "The Kravaks expect you to defend these worlds the same way you always have," she said, "but we won't give them what they expect." Ross proposed a new strategy that combined coalition technology with human tactics. Coalition ships would be reorganized into smaller, more flexible groups. Human commanders would lead mixed crews, teaching them to think and react like humans during battle. Some coalition officers objected. They had followed the same battle procedures for generations, but the success of human soldiers in recent battles had earned respect. General Thrulak approved Ross's plan, though he still had doubts. "Prepare your ships," he told Ross. "We meet the Kravaks at Epsilon Eridani in 2 days." The human coalition fleet arrived at Epsilon Eridani first. Instead of forming the traditional defensive line, they scattered their ships throughout the system. Some hid behind moons. Others powered down to avoid detection. When the Kravaks fleet arrived, they found only a small group of coalition ships in the expected formation. The Kravaks commander sent his ships forward, thinking this would be an easy victory. That's when Admiral Ross gave the signal. Coalition and human ships powered up and attacked from all directions. The Kravaks found themselves surrounded. In the fighter squadrons, human pilots introduced new tactics. Instead of flying in strict formations, they broke into small wings that attacked, retreated, and attacked again from different angles. The Kravaks could not predict where the next strike would come from. Captain Joe Ramirez led a squadron of mixed human and coalition pilots. His voice came through the comm system, steady and confident. "Blue wing, dive and strike their left flank. Green wing, provide cover fire. Red wing, follow me toward their command ship." The coalition pilots had never flown this way before, but they followed Ramirez's lead. Their smaller, faster ships darted between the larger Kravaks vessels, causing confusion and disrupting the enemy's careful formations. On the bridge of the coalition flagship, General Thrulak watched in amazement. The battle was not going as any of their simulations had predicted. The Kravaks were responding slowly, unsure how to counter these unpredictable movements. "They're retreating from Sector 4, reported a coalition officer. "Our fighters broke through their defenses." For 6 hours, the battle raged across the Epsilon Eridani system. Both sides took heavy losses, but for the first time in the war, the Kravaks did not simply overwhelm the coalition forces. Their superior technology was balanced by the unpredictable human tactics. Finally, the Kravaks commander ordered a retreat. His fleet pulled back, leaving the system still in coalition hands. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was the first time the coalition had stopped a major Kravaks offensive. Admiral Ross stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the damage reports. Many good people had died today, both human and alien, but they had held the line. General Thrulak approached her. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by a new respect. "In all our wars," he said quietly, "we have never fought like this. Your people change everything you touch, Admiral Ross. Today we did not lose ground. Today we stood firm." Ross nodded. "This is just the beginning, General. Now we teach your people not just to defend, but to strike back." Word of the battle spread quickly throughout coalition space. For the first time in years, people began to hope. The war was not over, but it had reached a turning point. Humans had changed the equation, and the Kravaks no longer seemed invincible. After the success at Epsilon Eridani, the Coalition War Council met to plan their next move. For the first time, they were not just thinking about defense. They were considering how to fight back. Colonel Ben Hawkins stood before the alien leaders. He was younger than most senior officers, with a scar across his left cheek from an early battle with the Kravaks. His plan was unlike anything the Coalition had considered before. "We should not attack their main fleet," Hawkins said, pointing to the star map. "That's what they expect, and it plays to their strengths. Instead, we target their supply lines. General Throlak frowned. Supply lines? Not their warships. Every army marches on its stomach, Hawkins explained. An old saying from Earth. It means even the strongest military needs supplies to function. Cut off those supplies, and their advantage weakens. The coalition leaders looked skeptical. In their culture, direct confrontation was the honorable way to fight. Attacking supply ships seemed underhanded. "This is not how wars are fought," said Admiral Kex, a senior coalition commander. "It's exactly how wars are won," Hawkins countered. On Earth, many conflicts were decided not by who had the better weapons, but by who could keep their forces supplied longer. He showed historical examples from Earth's military history, how smaller forces defeated larger ones by cutting supply routes, how armies that couldn't feed their soldiers soon lost their will to fight. Slowly, the coalition leaders began to understand. Their traditional approach wasn't working against the Krivaks. Perhaps it was time to try something new. "Very well," General Throlak said finally. "How do we find these supply routes?" Hawkins smiled. "We need intelligence, and for that, we need a special operations team to go behind enemy lines." A mixed team of humans and coalition special forces prepared for the mission. They would use a captured Krivak shuttle to infiltrate enemy territory. Their goal was to place tracking devices on supply ships and gather information about the Krivak's logistics network. Communications specialist Maria Rodriguez was chosen for the team because of her skill with alien technology. She had a talent for understanding and manipulating complex systems. The Krivaks use quantum-encrypted communications, she explained during mission briefing. But every encryption has patterns. If I can access their network, I might find weaknesses we can exploit. The infiltration team launched in the captured shuttle. They crossed into Krivak's territory, under the pretense of being a routine supply ship. For 3 days, they moved carefully from station to station, planting hidden trackers and collecting data. At a major supply depot, Rodriguez managed to access a Krivak's communications terminal. While the rest of the team kept watch, she worked quickly to download data and analyze their encryption systems. "Their security is advanced," she said, fingers flying across the alien interface. "But they're overconfident. They don't expect anyone to get this far into their territory." After hours of work, Rodriguez cracked a portion of the Krivak's encryption code. What she found was invaluable: complete maps of their supply network, schedules for shipments, and locations of their main depots. "We have what we need," said the team leader. "Time to go home." Their return journey was tense. Twice they nearly encountered Krivak's patrols, but they made it back to coalition space with their precious intelligence intact. Using Rodriguez's data, Admiral Ross and Colonel Hawkins planned a coordinated attack. They would strike multiple Krivak supply depots simultaneously, using small, fast attack groups. The coalition leaders were nervous about spreading their forces so thin, but they trusted the human strategy now. The combined fleet launched its attack. Dozens of small battle groups jumped into Krivak space at different points, targeting supply ships and depots rather than military vessels. The Krivaks were caught completely off guard. They had never considered their supply lines vulnerable. Their mighty warships scrambled to defend the depots, but they were too slow and too far away. By the time they responded, the coalition forces had already destroyed key facilities and disappeared. For the first time, the coalition had launched a successful offensive against the Krivaks. Even more importantly, the Krivaks suddenly found themselves short of critical supplies. Their advance stalled as they struggled to fuel their ships and feed their troops. "Now they know what it feels like to be hungry," Hawkins told the War Council. "And hungry soldiers don't fight as well as fed ones." The psychological impact was even greater than the physical damage. The Krivaks had believed their territory was secure. Now they realized nowhere was safe from these unpredictable humans and their new coalition tactics. The Krivaks' Emperor Drakuth was furious. His mighty empire was being challenged by a coalition that included primitive humans. The supply line attacks had caused serious problems for his forces. Food and fuel shortages affected many Kravax ships. For the first time, the Kravax were on the defensive. Drakov called his war council together. The Emperor was tall even for a Kravax, with dark purple skin and 4 powerful arms. His eyes glowed with anger as he addressed his commanders. "These humans have changed everything," he said. "They teach our enemies to fight in ways we cannot predict. This cannot continue." The Emperor made a terrible decision. He ordered the execution of all human prisoners of war. The deaths would be recorded and broadcast across coalition space. He believed this would break the will of the humans and their allies. "Show them the price of defiance," Drakov told his commanders. "Let them see how easily these soft creatures die." 3 days later, the horrific videos reached coalition space. The footage showed human prisoners being killed in brutal ways. The coalition leaders worried that the humans would be demoralized and might withdraw from the war. But the effect was the opposite of what the Kravax expected. Instead of breaking morale, the executions united humans and coalition species in a way nothing else could. The shared outrage created a bond between the different species. Admiral Ross called an emergency meeting with General Thrulak. "We need to respond," she said, her voice steady despite her anger. "Not just for revenge, but to show the Kravax they cannot break us this way." "What do you propose?" asked Thrulak. "A rescue mission," Ross replied. "We have intelligence that hundreds of prisoners are still alive at a detention center in the Proxima Centauri system. We go in and get them out." Lieutenant Ryan Jackson volunteered to lead the rescue mission. He had lost friends in the executions and was determined to save those who remained. His team included both humans and coalition special forces who had trained together for months. They used a captured Kravax ship to approach the prison facility. The plan was high risk but simple: get in, free the prisoners, and escape before reinforcements arrived. The team landed in a maintenance bay. They moved quickly through the facility, using both stealth and force when needed. Jackson led from the front, guiding his team through the maze-like corridors. "Stay focused," he told them. "We come back with everyone, or we don't come back at all." They reached the cell blocks and began freeing prisoners. Humans, coalition soldiers, and even civilian workers were kept in terrible conditions. Many were sick or injured, but all who could walk joined the escape. As they moved toward their ship, alarms sounded. Kravax guards rushed to stop them. A firefight broke out in the main corridor. Jackson's team created a defensive position to cover the prisoners' escape. One by one, they got the freed captives aboard the ship. But the Kravax were closing in from all sides. "We need a diversion," Jackson said. He looked at his team. "I'll hold them off while you get everyone aboard." But his coalition teammate, an alien named Krell, shook his head. "No, we learned from humans that no one gets left behind. We go together or not at all." The team worked together to set explosive charges in adjacent corridors. When the Kravax forces pushed forward, they triggered the explosions, collapsing parts of the facility and blocking the enemy's approach. In the confusion, Jackson's team made it to the ship. As they lifted off, Kravax fighters scrambled to pursue them. But coalition ships jumped into the system right on schedule, providing cover fire for their escape. They returned to coalition space with over 300 rescued prisoners. The mission was hailed as a major success, not just for the lives saved, but for what it represented. Humans and coalition species had risked everything for each other. The bond between them grew stronger. Meanwhile, on the main war front, Captain Alicia Foster had developed something new. She was a weapons specialist who understood both human and coalition technology. Working with alien engineers, she created a weapon that could penetrate Kravax shields. "It's a tactical nuclear option," she explained to the coalition leaders. "Small, precise, and effective against their command ships." Some coalition species were hesitant about such destructive weapons. In their culture, weapons of mass destruction were considered dishonorable. but Foster showed them how these weapons could be used with precision to target military installations while minimizing civilian casualties. The coalition agreed to use Foster's weapons in their next major offensive, their target, the Kravax command and control systems. If successful, it would leave the enemy fleet in disarray, unable to coordinate their actions across space.